Beloved, we come before the text today with a question laid upon the altar. The question is this: YHWH, give us the latest Bible prophecy news for the war in Iran, for Persia, for Elam, for Edom, for this day today. And the first verse drawn, the lead verse, the one that opens the gate, is Revelation chapter 2, verse 28. And I will give to him the morning star. Now hear what the text does before it speaks of war. It speaks of a gift. The Son says, I will give. And what he gives is the morning star, the light that breaks the sky while the battlefield is still black. 9 consecutive nights of strikes, missiles falling on Jordan, the Strait of Hormuz choked and stilled. All of this is the darkness. And the first word the Father speaks over it is not a war oracle. It is a promise. The morning star is given to the one who overcomes, not by the sword, but by holding fast. And Revelation chapter 2, verse 24 confirms it. What you have, hold fast, until whenever I may come. Then the draw gives us Mark chapter 10, verse 49. Then Joshua stood still and ordered him to be called. In the midst of the war, the Son stands still and calls one man by name. And immediately after, 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. Then Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. The adversary stands to provoke. The Messiah stands still to call. 2 standings. 2 purposes. And the provocation is always the same. Number the people. Count the strength. Trust the count rather than the covenant. Saul numbering 600 men in 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 15. Moses and Aaron assembling the army by head count in Numbers chapter 1, verses 17 and 18. The few hairs numbered and bound in skirts in Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 3. The adversary says, count. The Father says, trust. And then the coalition appears. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with you. The verse before this one names Persia. The draw pulled the verse of the bands, the raiding parties, the many peoples. Not one army. Many bands. We see this today. Iran striking Jordan with ballistic missiles. Iran striking sites in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman. The bands are active. The coalition is not a theory. It is on the wire. And immediately after the coalition, the remnant. Isaiah chapter 4, verse 3. Those that are left in Zion, and they that remain in Jerusalem, will be called sacred, even everyone that is recorded among the living in Jerusalem. The war produces both the coalition and the remnant. Both are named in this draw. Then Obadiah chapter 1, verse 5. Would they not have stolen until they had enough? The oracle against Edom. And today, Iran's missiles have struck Jordanian soil, the territory of ancient Edom. Persia has struck Edom. The oracle says the theft is insatiable until the day comes. And Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 10. He repays them that hate him to their face. He will not be slack. He will repay him to his face. The repayment is not covert. Not by proxy. Face to face. 9 nights of strikes. 140 targets in a single night. This is repayment to the face. But hear what stands in the middle of the war. The altar stands. Psalms chapter 26, verse 6. I will wash my hands in innocence, so will I compass your altar, YHWH. The priestly washing continues. The war does not stop the worship. 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 29 tells us the priestly tabernacle and the altar were at that season in the high place at Gibeon. The worship was split, the tabernacle here, the altar there, but the worship did not stop. Leviticus chapter 24, verse 9 calls the offering an age-lasting statute. It outlasts the war. It outlasts every empire. And Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 4 says the holy portion of the land will be for the priests, the ministers of the sanctuary. There is a portion not contested, not subject to the ceasefire, not subject to the coalition. Set apart. Untouchable. And the 4 winds are held. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. For messengers standing upon the 4 corners of the earth, holding fast the 4 winds. Negotiations continue. A deconfliction cell exists. The holding is real. But the text says, after this. The holding precedes the release. And the terminus is Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4. His feet will stand in that day on the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives will split in its center toward the east and toward the west. The war does not end with a treaty. It ends with feet on the mountain and the mountain splitting. And in the midst of the raiding, there is resurrection. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 21. A dead man touched the bones of Elisha and was restored to life and stood up on his feet. The bones are still in the tomb. The power is in the bones. The dead will stand. The draw closes with Joshua chapter 19, verse 51. The inheritance is divided by lot in Shiloh before YHWH, at the entrance of the priestly tabernacle at the appointed place. The lot is cast. The priest presides. And this draw, 100 verses selected by lot before YHWH, is a reenactment of that scene. The mathematics confirms what the text says. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood fires at more than 10 times the baseline, 6.61 sigma, discovery level. The guided draw E-value is less than 2 in a trillion. Every confirmatory channel is active. The polarity leans affirmative. The claim is strong anomaly. All gates pass. The probability of an affirmative answer is 98.4%. So what is the answer? The Father says yes. This war is within the prophetic architecture. Persia is named in the oracle. Edom is being struck. The appointed season is marked. The 4 winds are held, for now. The altar stands. The morning star is given. The dead will stand. And the oath, Hebrews chapter 6, verse 16, the oath for confirmation is the end of all strife. The war will reach its boundary when the oath is confirmed. Not before. But the warnings are delivered whole. Do not trust the numbering. The prophetic word will be rejected. The delusions are chosen as judgment. The lament is real. Lamentations chapter 5, verse 8. Slaves have ruled over us. There is none that does deliver us out of their hand. And the mixed garment is forbidden. Do not blend the holy with the common. Do not confuse the altar with the battlefield. The 1.6% remainder is the space of Joel chapter 2, verse 14. Who knows if he will return and leave a sacred blessing? The verdict is lean yes, not absolute yes. The war may engulf the region. The negotiations may fail. The text does not resolve which, and we do not resolve what the text leaves open. But the direction is yes. The morning star is given. The altar stands. The bones are in the tomb, and the dead will stand. Hold fast, until whenever he may come. Rejoice in YHWH, you covenant faithful, and give thanks at the memorial of his holiness. The eyes of YHWH are over the covenant faithful, and his ears are open to their prayers. Of a truth it is, that your Elohim is an Elohim of Elohim, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets. The workstation does not speak. It facilitates inquiry of YHWH. The direction belongs to the verdict and the text. YHWH himself is the covenant inheritance. Selah. The verses drawn in this Shield 17.14 session were Revelation chapter 2, verse 28. Mark chapter 10, verse 49. 1 Samuel chapter 23, verse 5. Acts chapter 21, verse 5. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. This concludes today's interpretation under the Shield Protocol.